coffee and
Right.
figure out where everyone's going to sit. So that's definitely a positive, I guess, to being virtual. So in terms of sort of what makes it successful, so I think kind of going back to sort of those objectives, right, is I think, when I look at what a good SKO or RKO, as we call it here, looks like, it's really, everyone walks away feeling that motivation, right? That energy and really excited to hit the ground running. I think having everyone walk away with really understanding those clear goals, right? And kind of really understanding what is being asked of them and what they're hoping to achieve. And then also feeling really empowered, right? To be able to hit and exceed those goals. I think, to me, and obviously having fun too. I think that's also a goal that says it's successful. People love it and they're like, oh, that was the best, best SKO I've been to. That's always the goal.
But on the tactical level, Roslyn, so you will probably send some feedback email post the event gets over to ask for how they rate on various metrics.
Yep, absolutely. A survey, just talk about different, kind of surveying the different sessions, what they liked, if it was logistically, whether it's the presentation, the content, and obviously rating kind of almost like an NPS score, right? How did we do? How do you feel? Do you feel like you're empowered to, hit the ground running, moving out? And usually you feel the vibe, right? As in the past. Now I don't know what it's going to be like in the virtual, but leaving the hotel, leaving the event, you can kind of feel that energy typically.
Got it. Awesome. So the other sort of the segment I want to move into is that what kinds of topics should be discussed in a sales kickoff, right? I think one, I think it depends on the company stage, I'm sure, but also in this new era, there are probably new topics that can be discussed, right? So Tony, I think the first question I had for you was, are there any standard topics that you would want to keep in a sales kickoff event?
Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of it, like Rosalind said, is around, what are the objectives and goals and kind of focuses and priorities for the organization going into the following year. So, it totally depends on stage of company and kind of what's happening that's relevant to your business. I mean, a few things to give you some examples of what might be relevant at Snowflake and maybe also at Clary and some other places is, if you're getting into a situation in a hyper growth company where, you're adding a lot of headcount and you're working on doing, say, more strategic deals, bigger deals, you're segmenting your markets in different ways. There may be a lot of topics around territory planning, account planning, the kind of the magical aspects of how do you go build big deals, right? And so there can be different topics around that. And so you kind of want to, build all this together based on what's relevant and what's happening in your business. Here's the key themes, here's the focuses, and then how do we align specific training or enablement that empowers our people to be able to go execute against those priorities such that when they leave SKO, they say, I'm completely aligned to the plan, I'm energized about it, and I feel like I'm competent and able to go execute against it. So.
Got it. Roslyn, over to you. Would love to pick your thoughts also on what topics you are planning for your kickoff, or what should people think about while planning for their kickoffs?
Yeah, definitely. I think I agree with kind of what both of you have said around it depends on the company, right? And what are those goals, right? As Tony said, what are those high level goals so that you can pick out the topics or build your content, I guess, around empowering your team to be successful. It could be sales methodology, right? It could be a whole new go-to-market. Maybe you're moving up market towards enterprise from maybe a traditional SMB space, or could be just around growth. Could be various, I guess, a number of different objectives. So I think really making sure that you hone in on what is it that you're trying to achieve, and then trying to kind of almost working backwards to figure out what are the things that would resonate and be appropriate for that type of event, that would make sense that you could train or teach or present upon those topics. And then, of course, there's going to be a ton of after the event, kind of the hardcore training that the reps have to go through. But and then also, being creative around building, obviously how you're going to deliver, which I'm sure we'll get into as well.
I was actually speaking to a lot of AEs recently, right? I think the one sort of topic or sort of concern that keeps coming up is how remote selling has become a huge part of 2020, right? And the traditional way of doing sales has changed, is what people are repeatedly saying, right? And people are not prepared for it yet in terms of how do you actually like engage, sort of build pipeline through video conferencing tools. Would love to pick both of your thoughts on like how should SKUs address that particular trend happening right now?
Yeah, I can weigh in. I can take that one. I mean, I think, some of the key trends are, I'd say at the early stages or even mid stages of COVID happening this year, I think a lot of companies kind of hit a lag with like new business acquisition. And so there was a real focus on, hey, how do we hunker down and ensure that, we're maximizing our install base and we're taking great care of our customers and we're there, for them in a time of need, depending on kind of what's happening in their business. And, that's probably been a big part of the revenue driver for a lot of companies. I think now this has been kind of business as usual for a certain extent. And so some either sales organizations or salespeople have kind of used that as a crutch, right? Like it's really hard to break in and establish, new relationships with new customers. And so there's probably an acknowledgement that, hey, I think we can go do that now, and B, here's some ways that you can do that. I think another theme is that that I've seen is that I would say that the fundamentals of selling are so much more important in a remote environment. So you have a lot of sales reps that over the years have been able to get by based on, just having relationships and taking customers out for events or meals or drinks or whatever it may be. Now you're in this digital world where, your buyers are all at home. They're distracted by what's going on in their personal life, what's going on in their professional life. There's chaos for a lot of people. And what's also happening is everybody's inundating them through digital communication streams, right? So you've got to just be really, really on point. So I kind of look at this year's SKO as an opportunity to get back to the basics and the fundamentals of, hey, like what are some key aspects of fundamentally, prospecting or qualifying deals, or, how do you break through the noise, acknowledging kind of what today's universe is. So those are just a few ideas top of mind for me.
Yeah, I love that. Kind of getting back to basics and just, what is the value prop, right? How do we touch, individuals, and especially everybody is at home and we are inundated for sure. I wholeheartedly agree with Tony, through all the different social channels, through all the communities that we belong to, just being on video and just webinars and such. So that's why I think really, trying to rise above the noise and kind of break through some of that. One of the things I was thinking about as Tony was talking is just, I think even at your SKO is probably a great opportunity to not just present sort of best practices on things that have kind of resonated in this digital kind of remote selling, but also use it as a gamification, right? Like an event, kind of do a little breakout session, break the teams into groups of, 4 or 5 or whatever makes sense for your organization, and have them go brainstorm and come back to the team with, 3 to 5 new ideas, creative things that they can do, and make it a contest, right? I mean, salespeople love contests. We all want to win. We're very competitive. So it's a great way to maybe bubble up some new ideas that maybe nobody's thought about.
Got it. Awesome. I just want to quickly connect a poll with the audience to see how many people are actually organizing a sales kickoff. Okay, probably most people are thinking of organizing a sales kickoff, so probably very relevant to what we're doing. Awesome. Cool. One question that is coming up in the audience, Roslyn and Tony, I think I see from a couple of people, Nick and also Deep. How long should an RKO be? Is it like a single day event with a half a session, or is it like a 2-3 day event? Like, how should people think about it when they're planning it?
Rosalind, you got any?
Yeah. So I have some thoughts. I definitely think, and so does my dog, unfortunately, has some thoughts on this topic too. So typically, I think most companies will do, if it's an offsite, they do it, day and a half, 2 days, possibly 2.5 or 3 days if you're a larger organization. But I mean, for virtual, as we were just talking about, not wanting to be on camera all day and people have fatigue, definitely breaking things up into shorter sessions. I mean, you'd much rather go, maybe it's half day, 4 days of the week, right? And and that may also help you accomplish some of the time zone differences and things like that. Because one of the complaints about sales kickoff sometimes is that you're there all day and you're not able to actually sell, right? Or kind of prospect. So that gives a good balance of that, I think. And then also if you have shorter sessions, maybe a little bit longer, but make them very, very interactive. Like we were just talking about doing breakout rooms, right? I think definitely making them very interactive, making sure that you're, building some gamification in there, not Kahoot. I think we're all tired of playing Kahoot, but do something a little bit different. And just having more breakouts, more things that, are hands-on, and just try to make it interesting.
Yeah, as much as you could recreate what the spirit of the environment is for an in-person kickoff around like collaboration and, community and fun and, brainstorming and all those types of things. I think those are all really good. And, I have a huge bias towards trying to keep, shorter sessions, maybe over a longer duration of days, because you just lose a good percentage of your audience if you're just going to sit on Zoom all day.
Yeah. I sort of want to go back to a point you mentioned where obviously the remote selling and trend is happening, but the other thing I keep hearing is that people are also struggling to work in a cross-functional level, right? For example, especially if they can't build a new pipeline, it's important to keep the existing customers happy. So how can you work with customer success teams? What are the ways to do that? So people think of sales kickoff as just like sales, selling, and all that stuff. But do you think it's also important to have these sessions where you sort of talk about how do you actually work at a cross-functional level, especially in a growing organizations like yours?
Yeah, very much. I mean, even at Clary, I think I mentioned we actually do an RKO, so it's a revenue kickoff, and it is all of the revenue teams, right? It's marketing, it's sales, it's SDRs, it's your traditional AEs, account management, as well as your customer success and support teams. So it really is truly a revenue revenue kickoff and kind of end to end from a buyer's perspective and customer's perspective.
I think that everybody should call it a revenue kickoff from now on. I think that makes perfect sense.
Got it. And in that case, then should everyone be part of all the sessions, or should there be like specific sessions for specific teams? Is that how should people think about when planning it?
Yeah, I mean, Tony, I don't know what you think, but I mean, I definitely think, it's important, especially in a small company, when you logistically, you can have everybody attend. And now with the virtual, it's like really no excuse, right? Everyone can log into whatever, Zoom or whatever platform you're using. So I think it's a great opportunity for you to really involve the entire company, at least for the beginning, right? Kind of the welcome, the keynote speakers, things like that is welcome the entire company and involve them. And then in your separate sessions on the other days, maybe those are more targeted towards your sales team, right? Or your marketing team or whoever, like you said, Kishore, it's just kind of different sessions and more focused. But definitely the first day, there's really no excuse, right? Everyone can jump on Zoom.
Once, I tell you, it's like a once or maybe twice, we'll see how it goes, but once or twice in a lifetime opportunity to be able to not have to have that trade-off of, okay, well, we have to take into consideration all the, costs of travel and, the opportunity cost of being out of the office to say, hey, everybody should be on, these key, all hands sessions. And I think there is a real opportunity this next year to align all teams to the revenue organization such that they have an appreciation for what's going on, and to also, give them an opportunity to speak about the things that they're contributing in either building product or, helping sell the product, right? And so that the sales organization can better, interact with different teams as well.
Yeah, that's great feedback, especially on the product side, right? Because normally at a kickoff, you might just have like your product leader come in and talk about roadmap, right? Versus actually having some of the product managers come in and maybe do some breakout sessions and socialize and get good feedback about kind of what's working and what's not and what they have planned and what they're hearing from customers. It's just a great way to get a variety of perspectives that normally you wouldn't.
Yeah. This is my observation. Correct me if I'm wrong, Rostin and Tony. I feel that now, like Tony said, when you go back to fundamentals, the product actually trumps everything, right? Like it's important to have a good product in place that meets the customer needs. And I feel that sales teams are the best people who actually relay back that feedback to the product team because they're selling the product, right? So, I feel like the point you made resonated with me, at least when, especially in growing organizations trying to figure out how to bring teams together and actually work on the feedback that customers give on the product. So I think it's important to have that as a separate session, probably have like a product thinking session in terms where sales and product teams can actually come together to do that. So that's a very interesting point. Yeah.
Well, I would say too, I think, every year at SKOs, and Rosalind, you probably get this feedback when you send out surveys, but some of the most valued sessions are the ones where you actually have customer panels. And I think, similarly, there's a unique opportunity this year to say, hey, how do we, incorporate more or different customers into an SKO event such that both the product team and the sales team gets to hear voice of the customer such that we can both better serve our market going into the upcoming year. So I think there's a good opportunity to do that even more than usual this year.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, even having in past kickoffs, I've had board members come in and speak, have customers, like Tony said, obviously have different people within the company. But I mean, I think it's so powerful to have your customers talk about the story and why they purchased your product, how they're using it, what the real value is. And hopefully, you bring in customers that tie into whatever your objectives are for next year. If it's growth, you talk about how this, customer can share their story in terms of how they use the platform for that, for that objective. And kind of what Tony was saying is like, you don't have to fly them in this time. You don't have to book hotel, right? And the timing, the scheduling is always hard because they're probably busy with their own kickoff. Yeah. And so jumping on a 30-minute video call is, usually pretty easy for folks, or even you can even pre-record. Yeah. Right? You can actually have them pre-record it and then just present it, and then maybe have that person jump on for 5 or 10 minutes just to answer questions. So there's tons of creative ways to, really leverage the virtual kickoff in ways that
for this year for your ideal target speakers to say no. There's a lot less excuses like, hey, I'm supposed to be somewhere else, or no, I'm busy. It's like, I got 3 comebacks to that. So
that's right.
Awesome. This is my favorite question, Tony and Rustin. I think a person called Deep was asked that question. He's basically talking about what something I also face personally, right? I mean, I think lots of teammates are struggling with their personal life, but sales teams still have targets to meet, right? Like it's a little unfair to my perspective, but how should companies think about like the mental well-being of sales teams, irrespective of what's going on, right? I think cloud companies are growing super fast, but there are so many companies which are slightly not growing fast. So how should there be like leadership sessions for sales managers in terms of how do you actually deal with employees? Like how should people think about it?
I would say, high growth software companies in general have a trend that says we have a lot of younger or less experienced leaders, right? And people managers. And I would say it's also an area that most companies don't do a phenomenal job of investing in, teaching people how to lead. They teach people how to sell the product. There's a lot of training on that, but there's not a whole lot of, it's kind of a learn on the job training. Well, COVID just puts like a 10x multiplier on that because, imagine that you're just trying to figure out what you're doing as a leader in the first place. And then you have, this person on your team just lost a family member due to something. This person has, 2 working parents and they've got 3 kids at home who are all doing virtual learning. You got somebody else who's worried about their financial situation. And it's like, there's no real great training for, especially less experienced people leaders to be able to navigate all of those circumstances to not only like support each individual member of their team, but also try to create a dynamic in a team culture such that everybody's supporting each other and you can still drive, collaboration and accountability to the objectives that you have. And so I would say this year's SKO, for most companies, I would really encourage to incorporate some people leader, training around those topics and kind of how to manage through change or manage through difficult times.
Yeah, definitely. I think I think with the current challenges and sort of the situation, I mean, the bar has continued to be raised, right? In terms of, especially being a leader, especially in revenue, right? Because of the challenging times that we have. But I definitely think companies need to, aside from SKO or RKO, really hunker down on leadership, right? Helping your leaders navigate with their teams, right? We talk about empathy a lot and how to lead. And so I think those words and sort of those things that we talk about all the time have become extremely critical now. And companies who are good at that and have already invested time and energy and resources into those programs are going to be much better positioned, right, to be successful. And those who haven't need to, they got to get on the ball and start, definitely investing in that, whether it's at Kickoff or not.
Got it. Awesome. If you have a video question, I just want to pick someone on stage. Just 1 second. Hey, hi, Nick.
Hello.
How's everyone doing? So my question is, so I'm in marketing, specifically field marketing. And my question is, how can marketing and sales build on alignment during RKOs?
Oh, that's a great question, especially coming off of a revenue kickoff. I mean, marketing needs to, and Tony, I'm sure you have your own thoughts on this too, but I definitely think marketing has a huge hand in planning the kickoff, right? We work obviously hand in hand, operations with the sales leaders, with the marketing leaders on building out, what the objectives are, what the content looks like, everything really end to end for kickoff. And it's a great opportunity to show that we're all aligned on those fundamentals and present the content and the information that shows that we are aligned and we're marching towards the same goals.
Yeah, I think you said two key words. I think, alignment and integration, I think, of the two teams really focused on, where, each can impact different aspects of the buyer journey. I think that's, if you kind of orient around the buyer journey or the sales process, however you want to articulate it, I think that would be a good way to, to show that united front in saying, okay, so typically when a buyer is at this stage, you can think about leveraging marketing in these ways, right? Like ABM might be really good for kind of the mid stages of the funnel, or, we've got these specific kind of, virtual field marketing that, these types of events that we can do that are more top of funnel or more late stage or more customer relationship building, or just being really thoughtful about, impacting the entire sales process as opposed to the traditional, like, marketing is top of funnel and then we generate leads and then the sales team says the leads suck and they don't follow up the leads, and marketing says the sales doesn't follow up the leads. I think there's this evolution and maturation of the alignment and integration of sales and marketing that can be, really thoughtfully presented during an SKO.
Awesome. Thank you. I appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you.
Thanks, Nick. Yeah, cool. I think we have one more question, Tony and Rustin. I think Deep is asking in terms of how do you actually sort of create that engagement that Roslyn talked about, like that in addition to breakout rooms, are there anything that you can do? Because I feel like these days even companies are improvising. For example, I've seen companies sending like wine bottles to customers and having some sort of an ABM kind of an event, right? Should people think about sending like wine bottles to sales teams, like have a sip of wine during the event?
Yeah, I love that. Actually, we are working on a kit for the teams. And, obviously everyone who goes to Kickoff expects good swag, right? They all expect good swag, especially at Clary. We just went through a rebranding. I don't know if you guys have seen our amazing new brand. Thank you to our marketing team and colors and such. But definitely, everyone wants swag, right? So I think definitely that part of it for the company. And that's a great way if you have sort of that first day with the entire company, if you're small enough that you can do that. But I think what I would, definitely love to do, and it's something that we're looking at, is like a toolkit, right? That you're shipping out ahead of time. And so throughout the event, you're pulling out something, right, from that toolkit to keep it really engaging, right? Whether maybe it's, okay, now we're at this session, go to your kit and pull out whatever that thing is, bring it to the event, right? And that way you keep it engaged versus somebody unpacks everything and they kind of put it to the side and then they show up, right? Which is kind of the normal event, right? You got your bag and your t-shirt or whatever, your little camera thing and stuff. But if you put some thought into that toolkit and have them be items that they can use during each event, right? And then also remember to pack snacks. That was my input. Don't forget, people expect food, so definitely pack snacks and say, okay, eat this during, now it's time to get out your whatever, just to make it really interactive and fun.
Awesome.
The other thing I would say is, as I think Tony mentioned during Sales Kickoff, obviously we're doing awards, right? Yeah. And one of the things we were talking about that came from a team member on our staff that was a really great idea was to spread out those awards, right? Not do a whole award session, but throughout each day, maybe you're talking about, whatever topic it is for that session, then you highlight who did it really well last year and show that achievement. And that way the awards are sort of sprinkled throughout the event and more meaningful than kind of a long list of, kind of like the Academy Awards where you're just going through all of them, you kind of lose track of who won what, right?
Yeah.
I love that idea. I think that's really, really awesome.
Cool. Awesome. We have one more question. Let me just approve. Hey, hi,